Hello, this is Jason Matthews. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, and today I'm going to be going through this police canine use of force video, and I'm going to be giving you my opinion based on my training and experience on whether I believe this is a lawful use of force or it is excessive use of force on behalf of the police. Now, if you have not watched the full uninterrupted video and you want to watch that first, go back to last week's video where you can watch the full video, and then I asked you a question about the video, your opinion on whether it is excessive use of force or it is a lawful use of force. Once you do that, come back to this video. And let me explain before we first get started. I was a use of force instructor, and I trained other police in use of force. That includes case law and what an officer can and can't do in a use of force situation based on Graham versus Connor specifically and other case law. I was also a taser instructor, and I was also a police canine officer. Let's get started. Now, before we continue with this video, I want to explain something to you that's very important in regards to canines before I forget, and that is there are two types of canines. There is a passive type canine, and there is an aggressive type canine. Now, there are hybrids, but they're not that common. Passive and aggressive are the dominant types of canines in law enforcement, and the ones that police commonly use. Now, I had a passive dog. This right here, what you're about to see, is an aggressive dog. The difference here is a passive dog will, when he detects a controlled substance that he's trained on, he will give visual indicators, body language that will alert the officer, the canine officer, that that dog has detected a substance. In an aggressive canine, they will attack suspects upon command for self-defense or to apprehend a suspect, or they can also be trained in drugs also, but they will scratch at the drug. They will scratch at an area where the drug would be contained in, that they're detecting. That's the difference. Let's continue.
No! Yes! Kill him! Kill him! Yes! Kill him, Bobby! No! 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 No, Bobby!
Now, the canine has found the individual, which is another thing. Passive and aggressive canines can be trained, which my passive dog was also trained to find people. Not latch onto people, but to find them and then give an indicator to me that the person is located in a certain area. So this dog has detected someone, and this is a very unique situation here. Why is this unique? The reason is the canine is taking commands from the officer, but at the same time, the canine also is an animal. And so the canine does not always do exactly what the officer says. And you're going to watch this as we continue.
Let me see your hand! Let me see your hand! Don't fight my dog! Stop fighting my dog! Stop fighting my dog!
So he's saying, stop fighting my dog. And it doesn't appear to me like he's fighting the dog. But again, this is the problem with police body camera footage. We only see the angle of this officer. There's other officers on scene, and we do not see the angle, the body camera footage from the other officers. From another angle, as you can see in many videos on YouTube, and I did this while training other officers, there could be other angles that you can see that will tell a completely different story. One example that I always used in training and saw in training was from one angle, someone was walking across a parking lot towards the police. And in the hand from the side angle, the left hand, you could see that he had nothing in his hand. However, when you saw the other body camera from the other officer on the other side, he clearly had a gun in his hand. And on the audio, he was saying he was going to kill people. But you didn't hear that or see that from one angle. And so this is the issue with body camera footage that I'm always harping on this channel. It doesn't tell the whole story. So this may look bad from one angle, but without knowing the rest of the story, not knowing other angles, that's problematic.
No! Get him, please! No! Come on,
Now, as you see, it looks like the officer is trying to get the dog off of the guy, off of the suspect. And see, this is what I was talking about. This is a possible problem. Even though these are trained dogs, highly trained dogs, they go through many hours of training, and the officers go through many hours of training. He's using something, I'm not familiar with what that is, but he's using something to try and get between the dog and the individual to get the dog off. But even though dogs are fully trained and officers are fully trained, that does not mean that the dog is always going to do exactly what the officer says. Because they're animals, they have an instinct, an attack instinct. And so the officer could be telling that dog to get off. He could be giving all the commands he gave in training to the dog to get off and release from that individual, and the dog could not be complying, which happens. I've seen it happen. I've seen dogs get so excited in training when I was training as a canine, and these were passive dogs. I saw dogs get so excited that they wanted to go out and work that they would actually bit their own handler. So imagine an aggressive type dog that's trained to bite. And so you have to take that into account. So the question becomes now, well, let's continue and I'll explain a little bit more here. So continuing where I left off, the question is, if this is excessive use of force by the dog and or the officer, which we don't know exactly what's happening here. Again, problems with body camera footage. We don't know what the officer is saying. We don't know what commands exactly. We can hear audio, but we can't understand what is going on exactly. Because when I was giving commands to my dog, it was always in German, right? And how many members of the public, if this is released, can judge this and determine what is he saying and what commands is he giving the dog? Is he telling the dog to release? Is he telling the dog to attack? But then the question comes up, if the dog is not following the orders of the canine officer, who do you hold responsible? Do you hold the officer responsible? Or do you hold the dog responsible? Is it a combination? So this complicates the legality of this use of force. So that would have to be analyzed very carefully, and probably was. That's my guess. Because if something serious like this happens, I can guarantee you that there was some type of review on this. And especially before they voluntarily released this to the public. A police department, if they feel like there's some liability that could come up where they would have to settle with someone, they would not release this to the public if they thought there was something wrong with it. So the fact that it was released, there probably was a review and probably was found by the department itself and probably by lawyers that it was a justified use of force. But what do you think? Give me your opinion down in the comments. Based on what I just told you, it's questionable if you can hold the officer responsible if the canine is not following commands he's trained to follow. Who's responsible? And I would say, in my opinion, if, and I say if because we don't know all of the details here, which I will link the original video down in the description box if you want to go watch it, which has further information about the incident. But if the dog did not follow commands, my opinion would be that dog is pulled off the line and evaluated by canine trainers to see if this dog really should be out there in the public doing this type of job. Or should they just be retired? Or should they just be taken off the line and they train another dog, or they use another dog that's trained? If you enjoyed this video, click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to be notified when new videos are released. Take care and have a great day.